Hi, good evening. It is January 21st, 2025, and we are going to start the Arts, Parks, Libraries, and Entertainment Committee meeting at 5:32. And I'm going to do roll call. All right. Brenda's not here. Bradford, Councilmember Bradford is here. Councilmember Cap.
Here.
Councilmember Eastlick. Councilmember Ewing.
Yes.
Councilmember Hancock. Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Stiles. Not here. Councilmember Taylor. I am here. Councilmember Bell. And then Councilmember Welsh. Here. Great. Thank y'all so much. Okay. So I believe that everything is on consent agenda except comment. Oh, sorry. Yes. First, I want to thank we do have one person signed up for public comment, Robert Jones. And you will have 2 minutes to speak. All right, Mr. Jones.
Hi.
Hi. Great.
Well, hello everyone. I want to thank everybody for taking the time to come to this very crammed, small meeting room on such a cold day. I'm an artist and business owner. I was one of the original signers of the MHRC complaint. I think really what I want to say is that right now I know that there's it feels like we're in a difficult situation with this grants process. It feels like we're in the middle of a rock and a hard place with what to do, and I just want to say that from talking to every single artist I know in the arts community, everybody is very, very nervous about the idea of this fiscal sponsorship. The reasons for that are, firstly, because it adds a lot of extra work for everyone involved, including for, I'd say this as a board member for the North Nashville Arts Coalition, for non-profits, sponsoring an artist for 10% of what might be a $5,000, $10,000 grant is a lot of liability to take on the part of the of small arts organizations. And then on behalf of the artists, it just feels like a lot more red tape, a lot more extra work to lose a cut of those profits and to give potentially a lot of say in what those art projects are that get sponsored by larger organizations who are able to sponsor them. It feels like a big step backwards, and I know that this is a really difficult situation. It feels like we're at a brick wall, but I just want to implore everybody to really think about whatever options are possibly available to avoid this eventuality, and I just hope that there's something we can do. I know that we don't want to hold up funds anymore, and this might seem like the only option available and the only path forward. But this is going to be a really permanent decision for the arts community that I really think is going to have a long-term negative impact. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great, and that will close our public comment period. And so we're going to go on to our resolutions, and I believe that all are on consent except 961. So I'll go with RS 2025-962, 975, 976, 977, and 978. And then, do I need to read each of the captions?
Yes.
Okay, great.
I think you've got a couple more.
Oh, sorry, 979, thank you. And then bills on second reading, BL 2024-677. Okay. All right. So RS 2025-962, Coopin, Porterfield, Gadd, Welsh, Ewing, Allen, and Huffman accepts an in-kind grant from the Cumberland River Compact to the Nashville Farmers Market to convert underutilized asphalt into green space. Then RS 2025-975, Porterfield, Gadd, Welsh, and Ewing accepts the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for performing arts apparel, instruments, equipment, and related services for the Nashville Public Library. RS 2025-976, Porterfield Gad Allen accepts the terms of a cooperative purchasing master agreement for electric vehicle charging stations, accessories, and maintenance plans for the Nashville Public Library. RS 2025-977, Kimbrough, Porterfield, Gad, Welsh, Swara, Ewing, Allen, Huffman, Toombs accepts a grant from the Tennessee Department of Disability and Aging to the Nashville Public Library for the purchase and installation of an adult-sized changing table in the family restroom of the Bordeaux Branch Library. RS 2025-978, Porterfield, Gad, Welsh, Huffman approves an application for a Game On grant from the Gaming Roundtable of the American Library Association to the Metropolitan Nashville Library to enable libraries to develop gaming programs or collections for the community. Then RS 2025-979, Toombs, Porterfield, Gad, Gamble approves a lease agreement by and between the United States of America, Department of Army, and the Board of Parks and Recreation for a parcel of property adjacent to the Cheatham Lock and Dam. And then, do I need to go approve these first and then go to second
Everything on
reading?
consent, go ahead and
Yes.
read, and then we'll approve it.
Okay, perfect. And then bill on second reading is BL 2024-677. Porterfield, Gad, Welsh, Evan, Siegel, and Bowe approves a license agreement between the National Public Library and Ancestry.com Operations, Inc., a Virginia corporation to digitize certain library documents and microfilm records. All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any against or non-voting? Okay, everything on the consent agenda passes 6-0. Thank you so much. Okay, and then we will come back to perfect timing, Councilmember Porterfield.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for standing strong.
Yes. Okay, so we are going to go back to item number 1, RS 2025-961, Porterfield, Gad, Ewing, Toombs, a resolution to approve the criteria for operating support and Thrive grants for the Metropolitan Nashville Arts Commission. All right, and I see that oh,
Because Clay went out. So
okay.
Hannah, go with them.
We're going to have a quick pause.
I thought you said you just want to behave tonight.
I said nothing of the kind.
he's only out for
Oh, you mean he said
Yeah.
that?
Okay, thank
He
you
did.
so
He
much.
lied.
Oh, okay, thank you so much. All right, we are back at quorum, so we can continue business. Can I get a
moved.
Second.
thank you on the resolution? And so, do we need to open for discussion?
Move the amendment.
Okay, a motion to move the amendment?
Moved.
Thank you. Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, now the floor is open for discussion. Councilmember Porterfield, you are recognized.
Thank you so very much. I am here in support of the amendment. I am joined by the MHRC Director, Director Tucker, who has worked very hard on the reconciliation and just the work with arts in general, as well as MHRC staff person, but soon to be interim Director for Arts, Ashley Batchelder, who, Chair, if you will give her the opportunity to speak, she will be able to break down what is in the amendment and also address some of the concerns that we did address in the Budget Committee. I also want to publicly thank her for her service. She has not officially started in this position, but as you see, she's doing the work, and she has been really steering the ship and trying to right some of the wrongs that have been happening with the Arts Department. So she's here to kind of speak to you all, and this did pass unanimously in Budget and Finance.
Great. Thank you so much, Councilmember Porterfield. Great. The floor is yours. If you'll introduce yourself.
Ashley Batchelder, currently the Director of Policy and Research with the Metro Human Relations Commission. Starting sometime next week, the Interim Executive Director of Metro Arts, and I have been deeply involved with Metro Arts through the Title VI process that the public commenter mentioned in his comments as well. And so we brought a few, there's also arts commissioners in the room here. So Commissioner Jester, Chair West, and Commissioner Lefkowitz. And so you might wish to address any questions to them as well. I wanted to just walk you through a little bit about what is in the legislation. The ordinance or the the resolution requires that the criteria for Metro Arts grants come to you. We have provided you a comprehensive grants and funding plan. Everything that has been authorized by the commission that will go into effect and implemented by the staff for your approval. It's much more than what's required in the code, but it's been a year of confusion and under-communicating, and so we wanted to over-communicate to you what our plans are moving forward. And so, everyone has a copy. I've got copies if anybody in the audience wants to have these as well. But I, in the last week, gave a pretty in-depth presentation to the MHRC Commission as well as to the Arts Commission that I've abbreviated in the slides here. And so I'll use this to just kind of walk through the highlights of what is in the legislation for you. So last year in the fiscal year, you allocated $3.2 million to Metro Arts for grants. This is for Thrive grants, which are many independent individual artists or sort of informal neighborhood groups, artist collectives, or other nonprofits that are not arts-exclusive organizations, as well as for general operating grants. And so it's inclusive of the two grant programs, and you see the number of pending applications. These applicants applied in January of 2024, so their applications have been sitting for a year and waiting for action to happen. And you see that the total request is triple of what the available budget is. And so we start by having the commission decide what the allocation is to Thrive and what the allocation is to general operating. Thrive has historically been kind of funded when available. On the next slide here, you see that in the year of 2023, it received 6% of the funding. 2024 was the year that much greater investment was given to Thrive. This was under former Executive Director Daniel Singh, where he really put a lot of priority into Thrive, and this is when the situation happened where the original vote in July was overturned that you see would have funded Thrive at 37%. What ended up happening then was 21% to Thrive, and then we come to here at 40%. So you see that this is the largest investment by Metro Arts that has been made to Thrive. Is it enough? That is for continued conversation in the grants cycle ahead of us. But I'll also say that the commission also received a staff recommendation to fund Thrive at 28% of the allocation, so they took it upon themselves to increase what was being recommended by their own staff. And so the Arts Commission has taken steps to greater increase the Thrive allocation. So how are the grant programs working? Your next slide here is how the operating grants are structured. And so this is for organizations where their primary mission is arts related. They're stratified by size, and you can read sort of the theory here that is about smaller organizations need a greater percentage of their budget, and those are also your organizations that historically have been underfunded, that it's harder to access funds when you're the small fish in the pond, right? And so this is the sort of theory behind this. This is the same application that applicants applied to. It garnered a lot of community support in the end of 2022, and so this policy has been maintained through sort of the challenges of the last 3 years. The next visual here shows when you break it up of where that is going by size of organization. What I want to say about that funding formula is that a lot of the debate in the last couple of years has kind of been like large organizations, small organizations, how do we distribute what we have, right? Knowing that it's been kind of a flat budget year after year. And so by structuring the grants in this formula, it sort of radically changes the trajectory of organizations that have received funding in the past. So in the last year, there were 14 organizations that received grants that are higher than $100,000. The highest grant was $187,000, but by using this tiered budget structure, The highest grant is $68,000. So a lot of the organizations that have historically received very large grants is just not going to be happening anymore. So it's really distributing it through the bottom of the scale. The Thrive funding formula, we talked in budget about fiscal sponsors, and Robert mentioned in his comments before that there was a lot of anxiety and concerns about that. It was a problem that was presented to us to solve for this year. I don't think anybody was happy that we had to come up with a new way to fund Thrive, but state and local law just prohibit the distributing grants to individuals, and it's not specific to arts. It's across the board. So fiscal sponsorship is the solution that we came up with. We've tried to put some procedures in place to help facilitate conversations between a fiscal sponsor and an artist. So there's a template letter of agreement that will be required to submit with the application that, says everybody's read the proposal, everybody understands what the reporting deadlines are, this is the draw schedule. So does the artist want 100% of the funds up front? Would they prefer, 2 or 3 installments? All of those things to sort of be negotiated and written down so that there's a documented agreement about how this relationship is going to work. As I said in budget, Metro Arts is working to recruit fiscal sponsors. Again, this is not the fault of anybody who is affected by this, and we know that any cuts that come from an artist's budget for administrative fees means that that money is not going to the work. And so fiscal sponsors are not required to charge fees. I think that this is an opportunity that we can ask organizations that have been funded by Metro for a long time to sort of do this public service back in return to individuals, and having a lot of conversations just about, ethical fiscal sponsorships. And so that is my commitment as the incoming director, how I will be having those conversations to recruit more fiscal sponsors. You have this document that just further details the work that the working group went through. We did consider other ways to address this funding mechanism. I'll also say that everything you're being asked to approve right now is just for the current year that we're in. We're already behind for fiscal year 26 grants, and so there will be much more robust engagement and public conversations about what changes need to happen this year or next year. But what you're being asked to approve right now does not mean that it's going to be the same the next year. The Thrive funding formulas, so that's essentially like how large are the grants going to be. I want to explain how we got to the decision of where we are. So in December, or at the end of November, the staff had brought forward a proposal to Metro Arts to fund Thrive Awards at $5,000. The commission outright rejected that. So the staff came back with a $10,000 funding cap for Thrive, and the commission authorized that. After hearing some distaste for that would really hurt artists' budgets and projects, the commission decided in January to rescind that decision and instead implemented a 75% scaled award formula. So the maximum request that somebody could make in their application was $20,000, the majority of which did propose projects at that $20,000. If they are eligible to receive funding, it'll be 75% of that. So it's $15,000. So that was really intentionally increased from where we started. And there's been questions around the grant spending period and the contract period, and if I misspeak anything, I'm going to ask our legal rep to correct me. But right now, there's not policy enabling any of this, and so once this policy is approved by you all and receives the necessary signatures, that is when the contract period will begin. So hopefully that will be sooner than later, and the contract period will end on June 30th. June
First.
June 1st, although we have a planned amendment to address that as well.
So a couple of questions
Yes.
before I lose track.
Yes, please.
Number one, it's concerning that we don't have the roster of fiscal sponsors. What happens if you don't find enough fiscal sponsors to sponsor particularly the Thrive recipients, and therefore their timeline keeps getting more and more compressed? It's already really difficult, I think, that we're asking them to spend their money within a 5 or 6 month period.
Yes.
And so that's one big concern, and so I just wanted to get a little more detail on how soon you think those organizations will be found. The other thing I wanted to ask about was this, the fiscal sponsor duties. Like, what is their specific role? What tasks are they performing on behalf of these Thrive recipients? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I appreciate the question. So I'll start by saying Thrive applications will be reopening. They have to for these new requirements. And so I'll also say some Thrive applicants are 501c3 organizations, and so they will not have to do this. For individuals who need a fiscal sponsor who don't already have that relationship with someone, you're right, they'll have to identify someone. The applications will reopen for a 4-week period, and so it's during those 4 weeks that it is the responsibility of us and the staff and the commissioners who are all ready to step up and help identify organizations. Invitations are going out to organizations that have been identified just through public data, like who's on Giving Matters, right? Arts organizations that have received funding from Metro Arts in the past, like I said, asking them to do this public service back, and just the networks that people have, and so. The best answer I think that I can give you is that it is a priority for us, and we know that if we don't provide opportunities to help people connect to those, then there is no grant for them, and that is not what we want. And so it's the primary priority for us, and knowing that it's a 4-week application period, so February the 18th is the deadline for that. There are some things planned, public engagement sessions, sort of like open house style things, just so people can meet each other. Metro Arts will not be matching any individuals to organizations. We believe that's a choice that people should enter into their own. We can't compel anybody to work with somebody that they don't want to work with. And so we will not be matching, but we'll be doing everything that we can just to make resources available. And the duties of the fiscal sponsor to ensure that reporting is submitted on time, and those conversations will hopefully happen, like how that relationship will work between the two people that are entering this relationship. Ensuring that the requirements of the grant are met, ensuring, and I can send a copy of this, of the agreement as well, but I'm looking to Tessa if you have the details that are slipping my mind.
Yeah, Tessa Ortiz-Marsh, Metro Legal and Counsel to the Metro Arts Commission. With the fiscal sponsor, fiscal agency agreement, I mean, really the bare minimum requirements are that the money has to go to a 501c3, as Ms. Batchelder discussed. And then, so in the contract, it will say that this money is for this artist and that you are the fiscal agent for this grantee, this artist. And so contractually, that's what the money has to be used for, is to go to the artist or the grantee artist. And then on the back end, the fiscal agent will have to sign off on the report, the closeout report, And that closeout report, from my understanding, and we don't have any other art staffers here, that's where all the accounting, the dollars are accounted for, where what they said the programming or art was going to be will be checked on, make sure the art is what it is, or the programming was what it purported to be in the application. And then so that would have to be signed off by the fiscal agent. The fiscal agent isn't even being asked to write the report. The individual artist can write the report. The individual artist is going to maintain, I think, a significant amount of autonomy. I'm not an artist, obviously, but I believe that this relationship can be as collaborative or not collaborative as the fiscal agent and the artist want it to be. So,
Thank you.
Great. Yes, Councilman Walsh.
The contracts that Metro Arts will have, like with Thrive Artists, actually lays out the entire map, like you have to report A, B, C, D, and E, right? So Metro Arts is in fact going to actually be doing the oversight of that, correct? Not the fiscal agent? So essentially, the fiscal sponsor is really just a pass-through who signs off, I got the money, I gave the money, they did what they were required from Metro. You come to the fiscal sponsor and say, they fulfilled all their requirements, and I sign off on the report. So it's mainly like a pass-through, isn't it, for dollars from Metro through a nonprofit to an artist?
yeah, I want to be specific. The contract will be with Metro and the fiscal agent. Metro
Right, but
is not contracting with the individual artist.
But the oversight of how that grant is spent is actually on Metro Arts, correct? It's not on the fiscal sponsor. It's on Metro Arts. So if you say as Metro Arts, as a director, we want to report it 3 months, we want to report it 6 months, you're following up to make sure that report is there. It's not the fiscal sponsor has to track somebody down.
In the fiscal agency model, because Metro is contracted with the fiscal agent, if there were to be a midpoint reporting or a midpoint check-in, the fiscal agent and the artist will be notified of that. Because ultimately those dollars are responsible to the fiscal agent. The fiscal agent is responsible to Metro for it. So if there were to be a midpoint reporting, both the fiscal agent and the artist would be notified.
But the artist would be the one that's actually responsible for providing that to Metro Arts, not the fiscal agent. Just trying to say that that's really, the fiscal sponsor is really very hands-off, essentially.
The fiscal agent would need to sign off on any reporting or midpoint check-in or anything like that, because that's who's contracted with Metro.
Right, but, okay, yeah, generally, the fiscal sponsors that I've known, like I have a nonprofit, and we've acted as a fiscal sponsor for other organizations sometimes, and we essentially, that's what we were, was the pass-through. We received the dollars in the nonprofit, distributed the dollars, and then the organization giving the dollars was the one that had the requirements of this is what you have to do to fulfill the grant, and the person, who got the actual money had to do that, and I didn't have to do anything but sign a report like, okay, here, when Metro Arts says, yes, you fulfilled this, and I sign this and say, okay, now I give them the next royal money. I mean, essentially passed through and I wrote checks to who got the money.
Ideally, the relationship could work in that manner, and it's set up that it could work in that manner, or it could be more collaborative if need be.
If they need handhold.
Right.
They need more support.
Real
Right.
quick, Councilmember Eastlake, and then I'll go to
Yeah,
you.
what if it goes wrong? Is the fiscal agent liable for anything, or is it the artist?
The fiscal agent would be liable to Metro. The contractual relationship is between Metro and the fiscal agent.
So you are on the hook if something does go wrong and the person doesn't spend the money the way they were supposed to or the way the contract lays out.
The fiscal agent would be liable to Metro for the terms of the contract.
And the letter of agreement, we've written in, like, if anybody feels like things are going awry or there's a problem, like Metro Arts is there to help if it's conflict resolution or if it's, like, hopefully if something's going to get to that point, then Metro Arts will be notified, whether that's the fiscal sponsor saying that there's a problem or the artist saying that there's a problem.
Okay, great. Thank you. Councilmember Portico?
Thank you, Acting Chair. Just a couple of things to lift up. To my knowledge, I don't know of any instances where Thrive artists have been misspending their money. So we don't know of any instances where Thrive artists have done something inappropriate with the money. The reason that this has changed is because we cannot give money to individuals. The money has to go to an entity, right? Also, I just wanted to lift up that if we make any changes here, like if we defer it, if we vote it down, or if we try to make a change, it will have to go back to the Arts Commission. The Arts Commission will have to reconfigure, figure something else out, vote on something else, bring it back to council. Council will then approve it, and that will shorten the window of time that the artists that applied in January 2024, it will shorten the window of time that they have to spend their money. So ideally, if we could get this passed, as of right now, to be really clear, they will have if we pass it today, they'll have from today until June 1st to spend their money. The plan is to come back in 2 weeks and to pass a piece of legislation that would allow them to spend it up until June 30th to give them more time to spend it. And the Arts Commission and interim director and all of the entities are working together so that we don't run into this problem next year, so that we're already behind the 8 ball, but we're trying to clear it up. Arts has worked really, really hard to do everything they can to make sure that the artists have as much time to spend the money, but any delay that we have will delay those artists even further. So I just wanted to lift that up. I know I feel the frustration of when it feels like we get something and it feels like last minute and it feels like we have to push something through. I know that that's frustrating for us as council members, but I just want to lift up that they have worked really hard and done their due diligence to try to get this before us as quickly as possible. And hopefully we don't have any delays so that the artists will have the maximum amount of time.
Thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. Yes.
I just want to say.
Can you introduce yourself,
I'm
please?
sorry. I'm Heather Lefkowitz. What am I? I chair the grants committee for Metro Arts. This is a number, and I haven't confirmed this, but of the 202 Thrive applications, 82 are listed as a nonprofit organization already, and so they would not need fiscal sponsorship. Just to give you a scope. Now, we don't know, not everyone will be funded. We don't know necessarily will be funded. We don't know how it will shape up, but I just wanted you to give you a little perspective that 82 out of 202 applicants right now would not need a fiscal agent.
Yeah, Campbell West, chair of the commission. I met with staff today, and just to reiterate, that leaves us around 120 that need fiscal sponsorship. As of today, there are 9 confirmed. I've encouraged the staff to look within genre, to try to match within genre, in the sense of kind of like we did Learning Lab 100 years ago. This is a good way to lift up both partnerships, I think, and to not have the heavy lift all on the artist. And I'm happy to answer any other questions, but I just say those numbers are.
One more thing I was going to say, just to be clear too, is that the nonprofit or the fiscal agent does not have to be an arts organization.
Yeah.
It can be any nonprofit, right? And so if the artist has worked with a community partner already, it doesn't have to be an arts organization.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Councilmember Welsh.
Is for each of the Thrive artists who get, is there like a standardized contract for anyone who gets the grant money? Like in terms of if there is any reporting where it's standardized for all Thrive artists?
Yeah, so the way contracts with Metro Arts usually works is there's essentially a template contract. They all have the same requirements, the same effective dates of the contract, which equates to the grant spend period. And so in this situation, that contract will go to the fiscal agent.
Can it be written into any kind of contract that the actual oversight of that would be done by Metro Arts? So that might relieve a fiscal sponsor to say Metro Arts will make sure that the terms of this contract are being done, or tell the artist like you're outside of the scope, so that a fiscal agent, that would just make it easier, I think, for artists to find a fiscal sponsor who goes, okay, I am just the pass-through, because Metro Arts is actually going to oversee, it's all standardized. We know the email's going to go out, you owe me a report on the 15th of this month, the 15th of this month, whatever. You know, that the fiscal sponsor would sign off on, but Metro Arts is actually the one making sure that work is done before you cut the next act. Can that be written into the contract to make that would make it much easier to find a fiscal sponsor, that it's just more like, you can use my nonprofit status to get this money and do your work. And they don't feel like they have to do the day-to-day. Even though they're still ultimately responsible, I get that. But if it can be written in that Metro Arts would actually be doing the oversight to make sure everybody's fulfilling those terms of the contract. Especially if money's going out like every quarter, you're sending out some of the money. You can say each quarter to make sure that an email goes out to the artist and remember you need to file this before you get your next check. And then once that's been filed, I sign the paper, I sign the next section I give them the next hunk of money for the next quarter. I'm just trying to find a way to make it easy for an artist to find somebody.
Yeah, I think Councilmember, and Ashley, please speak to this if you feel like I misspeak. I think a lot of what you're speaking to would be would be explained and designated in the letter of agreement between the fiscal agent and the artist. So the contract will say there's these requirements, right? Ultimately, the signatories of the contract, and I'm not trying to repeat myself, is Metro and the fiscal agent. And so that's who Metro can obligate something to. Now, if the artist and the fiscal agent want to then agree in their letter of agreement, the artist will handle the reporting requirements and submit it to the fiscal agent for sign off, and you know, basically make the fiscal agent only the pass-through, and the artist is still doing all of the work, lessening the burden to the fiscal agent. That's something that can be agreed to by those two parties. Also, I think this is important to note that the disbursement right now from Metro to the fiscal agents or to the grantee is 100% upfront. So there's no quarterly disbursement. So if there is a situation where it's a fiscal agent to an individual artist, that fiscal agent will have 100% of the grant as soon as that contract is signed and processed through finance, right? And so how that disbursement happens is then dependent on the agreement between the fiscal agent and the artist.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Yes.
I just want to.
Will you introduce yourself, please?
Oh, I'm Davey Tucker. I'm the executive director of the MHRC. That the last element of the conciliated agreement when the Title VI claim was brought is this right here, that the criteria be of an equitable nature. If you remember, the claim was that it was discriminatory practices in the distribution of government funds. And in working through this agreement, this is the final piece. We've been a part of it all the way through. When you look at equity along the lines of what has historically happened and what are you doing now, you can see that it is getting better than what it was. And so MHRC is in full support of this, and we wish that this would pass, because this would allow us to put the conciliation agreement to rest, and that this is the final element of that.
Great, thank you so much. Okay.
Can I say one? No, we're done.
Yes, I was like, we need to wrap up.
Thank you so
Can I
much.
get a motion? Yes, can I get a motion?
Motion on the amendment?
A motion on the amendment.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or non-voting? Okay, this passes 6 in favor, 0
Vote
against.
on the bill as amended.
We are voting on the bill as amended. Yes, so now, can I get a second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any against? Non-voting? Okay, it passes 6 unanimously. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you so much. All right. We are adjourned at 6:09.